They set Bumpy Johnson on fire in his car. What he did with burned hands shocked the mob. The engine is still running when the fire catches. Metal screaming, skin burning, a message meant to kill Bumpy Johnson fast. And everyone watching expects sirens, bullets, and a funeral by dawn. The street is quiet enough to hear the engine idle. A red light bleeds across the windshield. Bumpy Johnson sits alone, hands resting where calm always lives, when the smell reaches him first. Sharp, chemical, wrong. Then heat. Not an accident. Never an accident. Fire crawls up the door, fast and hungry, licking paint, cracking glass. Metal shrieks as if it knows what's coming. The inside of the car turns into a furnace, a sealed message written in flame. This is what they chose. This is how they wanted Harlem to hear it. Bumpy doesn't shout. His hands move before thought. Instinct carved from years of survival. Skin burns. Pain bites deep, deliberate, trying to steal control. He absorbs it, jaw tight, eyes clear. Outside, someone runs. A shadow hesitates. No one comes close. Fires like this aren't meant to be helped. The door gives way. Smoke pours into the street like a confession. Bumpy steps out slow, deliberate, coat smoking, hands ruined and visible. People appear in doorways, behind counters, at windows. No screams. No cheers. Just watching. This wasn't meant to kill him alone. It was meant to humiliate him, to force noise, to provoke blood in the open, so the mob could point and say he'd lost control. Bumpy looks down at his hands. Burned, swollen, still steady. Someone whispers his name from across the street. He doesn't answer. Sirens begin far away, cautious, as if even they understand the rules tonight. He walks, not fast, not weak. Each step tells the same story. Pain acknowledged, authority intact. The fire dies behind him, but the message doesn't. Harlem feels it settle into the pavement, into the brick, into the waiting silence. Everyone knows what comes next. The only question is when. Bumpy Johnson moves through Harlem like smoke through a cracked door, unseen until the moment you notice him. Burned hands tucked under his coat, the pain a quiet drum beneath his calm. He doesn't need to announce himself. Authority in this neighborhood is earned in silence, not in shouts. He passes the corner barber shop where the usual chatter dies the instant he enters. Men lean back in chairs, hands paused on clippers, eyes sliding over him like water over stone. A nod, nothing more. Respect is quiet here. It is unspoken. It is expected. And Bumpy knows it flows both ways. At the fruit stand on Lenox Avenue, a young man drops a basket of oranges. Embarrassment flushes his cheeks, but Bumpy merely tilts his head. No lecture, no raised voice. The man straightens, understanding that power can arrive without fury, and that a wrong glance can last longer than a slap. This is the lesson of restraint, the strength that comes from choosing when to move, when to let silence speak louder than threat. Even the children sense it. On stoops, they imitate his walk, his slow and measured steps, unaware yet of the burns that mark him but not his control. In Harlem, Bumpy Johnson isn't just a man. He is the geometry of authority, precise, unyielding, impossible to miscalculate. He stops at a familiar stoop, leans against a brick, and lifts a hand. Bandaged now, but raw. It shakes only slightly. A voice calls from inside a doorway. One of the neighborhood elders, wary and respectful. Bumpy! It's both greeting and acknowledgement, and Bumpy doesn't respond. He doesn't have to. He allows presence itself to speak. Every corner, every step, every glance affirms it. He survived the fire, but he did more than survive. He demonstrated that pain cannot diminish control, and that loyalty is measured in calm, not cries. Men across the city will see the smoke and think fear. But Harlem knows better. Harlem knows the truth. And in the quiet, in the unassuming streets, Bumpy walks, burned hands and all, reminding everyone that power is not given. It is understood. and it is remembered. Even in flames, he never lost his crown. Across town, in rooms heavy with cigar smoke and whispered schemes, the men who set the fire wait. They sit in leather chairs, polished tables reflecting brass lamps, their hands drumming impatient rhythms. The plan was simple, a message of pain, delivered in flame, to humiliate Bumpy Johnson and fracture his hold over Harlem. They expected screams, chaos, and fear. Instead, they wait and wait. The fire should have been the first act of a show ending in their favor. Instead, it became a quiet proclamation of control. Each minute stretches, heavy with uncertainty. Phones sit in hands, calls unsent, voices clipped as though even the air might betray them. They misjudged him. They misjudged what Harlem respects. They believed restraint is weakness. One of them, older, sharper, the kind who's made threats and collected debts without flinching, leans forward. "Where's the panic?" he mutters, his voice low, almost a growl. He should be screaming. The streets should be running. The others exchange glances. Nervous. Some shuffle papers, as if paperwork can replace presence. They fail to see it. The man they tried to burn is walking Harlem's streets with a calm that cannot be forced, a control they cannot touch. Another voice, younger, sharper, spits out a bitter laugh. "You think he's weak because he didn't fall apart? That's his move, our mistake." His eyes dart to the maps on the wall, tracing streets like chessboard lines. "We wanted chaos. He gave us this." A third man slams a fist on the table. Silence follows, tense, brittle. Fear of miscalculation hangs between them like smoke in a low-ceilinged room. No one speaks of what comes next, but all sense it. They expected fire to destroy, but fire doesn't decide who survives. It only tests resolve. In their impatience, they misread every signal. The bruised and burned hands of Bumpy Johnson do not mean retreat. They mean calculation. The silence in Harlem means loyalty, not cowardice. The streets themselves whisper his name in reverence, while the mob wrestles with the impossible, a man they thought broken, unbowed. And in their waiting, the lesson begins to seep through. Power isn't taken by the quick hand or the burning flame. It is earned, understood, and maintained quietly. And Bumpy Johnson, burned and measured, is proving that in ways they cannot undo. The clock ticks, and the city exhales. Outside their doors, Harlem watches. Inside, the mob realizes the first mistake of many. They ignited a fire meant to consume, but it only illuminated the wrong man. It begins with a word. Harmless, almost, until it is spoken in the wrong place at the wrong time. On a bright afternoon, in the heart of Harlem, a man who once thought himself untouchable crosses a line. He mocks Bumpy Johnson openly, a smirk curling across his lips, a gesture meant to slice through the respect that surrounds the man like armor. Bumpy is standing near the corner stoop where the neighborhood children play. His hands are still wrapped, burned but strong. The insult hangs in the air, sharp and deliberate, a challenge crafted to provoke. Silence answers first. The street pauses. Merchants lean from windows, barbers stop mid-clap, and even the stray dogs seem to still themselves. Everyone waits for the inevitable, an eruption, a loss of temper, a display of uncontrolled fury. But Bumpy does not move. His eyes narrow slightly, measuring, calculating. The insult is a stone thrown in a pond, and Bumpy is not the ripple. He does not strike. He does not shout. He does not raise his voice. Instead, he allows the disrespect to exist, to linger, to fester. In Harlem, everyone knows the weight of what is unspoken. Everyone sees that choosing when to act is far more powerful than acting immediately. The man who insulted him begins to shift, sensing something too late. There is a tension now, tangible and electric, as the community watches the slow, deliberate response of a man who has survived fire, betrayal, and countless attempts to diminish him. His burned hands flex subtly, a quiet warning that restraint is not weakness. It is power stored, waiting to be deployed at the exact moment it will matter most. Time stretches. The insulter's bravado wavers as Bumpy takes a single step forward, measured and unhurried. The street seems to lean in, following the rhythm of his movement. No one speaks. No one breathes too loudly. The lesson is clear. Disrespect may provoke, but only the one who controls the timing of retaliation commands true authority. From stoops and windows, I trace him as he passes. Respect is silent. Loyalty is quiet. And fear, subtle, restrained, is far more effective than noise. Men who thought they could humiliate him learn that public disrespect does not erode power when power is understood in every glance, every measured step, and every silent command. By the time Bumpy reaches the next block, the street has exhaled. The insult is remembered, but its potency is gone. The neighborhood has seen who moves with inevitability, who balances pain with calm, who teaches without raising a hand. The man who mocked him now feels the weight of consequence, invisible but undeniable. In Harlem, this is understood. In the mob, it is feared. Bumpy Johnson continues walking. Burned hands flex in his coat. Silence follows him like a shadow. And the lesson, the one the city will not forget, is already settling into memory. Power is not in noise or reaction. Power is in restraint, in patience, and in timing. And the streets of Harlem have never respected a man more than the one who survived fire and ignored the provocation that could have undone him. The night is quiet, almost too quiet. Streetlights flicker over Harlem's cracked sidewalks as Bumpy Johnson steps from the shadows. His hands, still scarred and swollen from the fire, catch the faint glow, proof of pain endured, not weakness revealed. Every step he takes resonates, measured, deliberate, as if the city itself waits on the rhythm of his passage. Across the street, the men who set the fire, those who thought they could humiliate him, watch from their cars. Their eyes search for hesitation, for fear. They see none. What they do see is inevitability. Bumpy's hands tremble slightly, but his movements carry no chaos, no anger. He is a storm contained, a force ready to reshape the world with the simplest gesture. He approaches the first man in the line of those who dared. Silence speaks louder than any gunshot. Words are unnecessary. The mob expected screams, violence, panic. They get a glance that weighs more than any punishment they imagined. Bumpy's gaze fixes on the leader, slow and unflinching. Every insult, every attempt at fear, every spark of fire meant to break him, has only sharpened his authority. He raises his burned hands, not in threat, not in attack, but in possession. The message is clear. Control lies not in reaction, but in mastery. Each movement is precise, deliberate, a demonstration of power that cannot be challenged by bluster or bullets. The men flinch. Even the shadows seem to shrink away. And then Bumpy steps past them, calm as smoke curling from a dying fire. His burned hands flex, a subtle reminder of pain endured and yet dominated. The mob feels the weight of inevitability settle over them. They understand, too late, that authority does not come from terror alone. It comes from patience, from silence, from choosing the moment to act. Harlem watches from windows, stoops, and doorways. The neighborhood exhales, witnessing the quiet spectacle of dominance. No one is hurt unnecessarily. No blood stains the asphalt tonight. Yet every lesson has been taught, every line drawn. Bumpy Johnson has turned pain into authority, fire into legend, and disrespect into obedience. By the time he disappears into the shadows of his block, the city knows the truth. A man who controls even burned hands controls everything else. The mob has learned what Harlem has always known. Bumpy Johnson's rule is absolute, not through terror, but through inevitability. The night holds him, silent, untouchable, and forever remembered. Morning arrives quietly over Harlem. Smoke from the previous night's fire has long since faded, leaving only the faint scent of burned metal and asphalt. But the memory lingers, heavier than any smoke, heavier than fear. The city remembers what the fire tried and failed to take: Bumpy Johnson's authority. He walks the streets again, hands wrapped, eyes steady. Each step echoes through the neighborhood, through doorways, past stoops where children imitate the measured rhythm of his walk. Pain marks his skin, but it does not mark his control. Every burned finger, every blistered joint has become a symbol. Survival is more than endurance. Survival is a statement. Harlem watches and understands. Loyalty is not bought with fire. It is earned in quiet defiance, in the slow assurance of inevitability. Men who tried to humiliate him yesterday now whisper his name with caution, a mix of respect and fear. Power, they realize, is not in the flame that could have ended him. It is in the calm he wears like a second skin. In the barber shops, at the fruit stands, in the windows, and on the stoops, the story has settled like dust in sunlight. The insult that once cut deep has been absorbed and transformed. Bumpy Johnson has demonstrated that true authority does not shout, it doesn't rush, and it certainly doesn't need vengeance to be complete. It requires only patience, timing, and understanding the weight of every glance, every gesture, every decision. Even the men who orchestrated the attack feel the shift. Across town, they plot again, but they know the truth now. Fire may scar, bullets may strike, but legacy is untouchable. It is measured not in noise, but in control. Bumpy's burned hands have become a symbol, etched into Harlem's collective memory, proof that restraint wields more power than fury, and that authority is not taken, it is recognized. By dusk, Bumpy is gone from the eyes of the city, but not from its streets. The smoke is gone, but the lesson remains. Harlem whispers it, respects it, and passes it down quietly. Fire may try to break a man, but a king knows that what he builds in loyalty, silence, and inevitability will endure far longer than pain ever could. And so the city moves, carrying his legend forward. Bumpy Johnson has survived what should have destroyed him. In doing so, he has left behind something even more permanent than fear, an unshakable legacy.